Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Now then, today, a little bit of a personal reflection, to be honest with you. My top 5 or my 5 favourite non-guitar albums. So, I'm a guitarist. Why am I talking about non-guitar albums? Well, it goes back to about 2002, and I found myself, whenever I was wanting to listen to some music, had free time to listen to some music, I would inevitably go to the shelves full of CDs, which was the dominant format back then, and as I was kind of looking at the spines of all of these albums on the shelf, I would find myself going, no, don't fancy that, not in the mood for that, listen to that one a lot lately, let's have a change. Not sure about that one, we'll come back to that. No, definitely not in the mood for that one. And on more than one occasion, when I decided, okay, I've got a couple of hours free, I'm going to chill out to some music, I would end up not listening to music because there was literally nothing in my huge collection of albums that I could find that I wanted to listen to. And I began to worry, am I kind of falling out of love with music? Now, as a musician, that's kind of quite a worrying prospect. So how did I combat it? Well, I decided to listen to other styles of music and see if there was, anything that I'd been missing all of these years. And it turns out that there was. All of this time when I'd been concentrating on the latest Clapton album or the latest Gary Moore album or the latest Pink Floyd album or etc., anything that was very heavily guitar-centric, I'd been quite blinkered to other artists and other genres, and it was just time to kind of go and play a little bit of catch-up, basically. So, what I've got here is a list of, as I said, my 5 favourite non-guitar albums, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each one and why I love it. We're going to start off with what I think is a strong contender for the greatest album ever recorded. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. It features an absolutely stellar cast of musicians, as you can see there on the album cover. You've got, as well as Miles on trumpet, you've got Cannonball Adderley on alto sax, John Coltrane on tenor sax, you've got Bill Evans and Wynton Kelly on piano, Paul Chambers on double bass, and Jimmy Cobb on drums. Now, don't worry if none of those names mean a thing to you. They meant nothing to me when I first got this album. But the internet is a wonderful thing, and you can very easily do research and find out what these other names, who they are and what they've been up to, and maybe kind of listen to some of their music as well, which is another thread that I pulled at in discovering other music. But this album, really, for me, it's if you only own one jazz album, then you should own this one. From the opening bars of the first track, So What, where it's just like a famous iconic riff. This riff is the jazz equivalent of Layla. Basically, it's that famous, and I'm sure when you click on the link that's in the description below, you will recognise the riff when you hear it. The way it appears just like a shape out of the mist. And just then the whole band just kind of fall in, and it just sounds so relaxed and fluent. It's just a beautiful, improvisational piece of music. And that really does set the tone for the album. It's all, improvised, and as you would expect with jazz, but it's not done with wild abandon. There are strong melodies in there. And, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work from beginning to end, really, I think. Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, well worth checking out. Now we're going to skip genres here. The Planets by Gustav Holst. I was kind of force-fed classical music at school. It was... it was always played in school assemblies as we were filing in, and music lessons at school meant kind of learning about the life and times of Schubert or something like that, these incredibly dull lessons about people in, powdered wigs and, that all lived hundreds and hundreds of years ago and had no relevance to anything that I was interested in musically when I was 11 years old. So you kind of rebel against the whole classical music thing, and I did for a while. And then it just, as I say, I was looking for new things to listen to, and this was one of the things that I discovered. And it turns out that this is quite an influential series of works. Take a listen to Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, and then take a listen to Pink Floyd's Astronomy Domine, I think that's how it's pronounced, and then listen to Mars, the Bringer of War from the Planet Suite, and you start to get it. Okay, yeah. Obviously, Tony Iommi or Geezer Butler or whoever wrote Black Sabbath, and, Syd Barrett, who wrote the Pink Floyd tune, I guess, they've obviously listened to this work at some point, and they've taken something from it. My favourite tune on this whole album, if we're going to refer to it as an album, is Jupiter, the Bringer of Jollity. It's just one of the most beautiful, heartwarming melodies ever written by mankind, I think. And you might know it as the tune from a hymn that you would have sung in school assemblies, I Vow to Thee, My Country. So, yeah, that's why it might sound familiar when you check it out. Again, link in the description, check it out and see what you think for yourself. Now then, once again, skipping genres, what we got next? Sinatra at the Sands, old Blue Eyes himself. Now, before I heard this album, Frank Sinatra was just, your dad's favourite singer. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I just didn't get him. I was a Sinatra skeptic, and then I heard this album recorded, I think in '69, at the famous Sands Casino in Las Vegas. He's accompanied here by Count Basie and his orchestra, arranged and conducted by the legendary Quincy Jones. And like all great live albums that I could list, Frampton Comes Alive, or Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous, or Dire Straits' Alchemy, just off the top of my head. Those albums where there is a palpable atmosphere of excitement, and you get the feeling like you're in the room with the musicians, and the fun that they're having, and the good time that's being shared by everybody in that room on that day is also coming through the speakers at you. This is the feeling that you get from this album. It contains all of the classic Sinatra hits, things like Come Fly With Me, Got You Under My Skin, Fly Me to the Moon, It Was a Very Good Year, etc., etc., My Kind of Town. And they're just the definitive versions of those songs. It just genuinely sounds like everybody who was in that room on that particular night, from old Blue Eyes on stage himself right the way down to the busboys waiting tables, they were all having the time of their lives. It was a very happy night by the sounds of it. Okay, so what we got next? Another jazz one, Something Else. Remember when I was talking about Kind of Blue, and I was saying that the list of personnel on that album led me to kind of investigate who else was on there? Well, one of the names on that album was Cannonball Adderley, the alto sax player. Now, Kind of Blue came out in 1959, but the year before that, 58, Cannonball, or Julian to give him his real name, released this album, Something Else. And Miles, as you can see, plays on this album. And it's arguable that you could really call this a Miles Davis album, to be honest with you, because Miles does tend to dominate. There are various accounts that state that Miles Davis chose most of the material on the album, and he certainly takes the first solo on many of the tracks. So it is kind of very much Miles in the spotlight. But whoever's name is on the album cover, it's a fantastic, fantastic album. It's melodic, toe-tapping, catchy, tuneful jazz. Okay, it's even my missus loves this album, and she's not really a jazz fan at all. She just calls it twiddly elevator music, but she does like this album. So if you're looking for some kind of entree into the world of jazz, then this is another album well worth checking out. So what do we got to round off with? More classical music. Claude Debussy's Suite Bergamasque. I always pronounce that wrong. It dates from 1905 when this was first published, because, you didn't release albums then. The recording industry was in its infancy. You published the sheet music. And it sort of gives the lie to the often quoted notion that all 20th century music is just discordant, dissonant, tuneless, unmelodic racket. This is beautifully written and melodic music. It is heartwarming in every way. It contains the beautiful piece of music that you may be familiar with, Clair de Lune, which literally just means moonlight. And other favourites of mine on this are a tune called Arabesque No. 1. It is the sonic equivalent, this whole series of piano works, of that beautiful glass of ultra smooth, high quality single malt Scotch whiskey that you yearn for when you are having a hard day at work and you're kind of looking forward, when I get home, that's what's in store for me, I'm going to pour myself a large one. Well, this whole series of piano works is very much the sonic equivalent of that. For me, when I listen to it, it leaves me with that same feeling that you get when you've just turned over the last page of a brilliant book that you've really enjoyed reading, and you come to the end of it, and it's almost like you just want to start it all over again. Or when you've eaten a delicious cordon bleu meal, you feel satisfied and fulfilled in a way that is difficult, as you can tell, to put into words. But yeah, I can highly recommend it. Claude Debussy, Suite Bergamasque, some beautiful, beautiful tunes on there. And these are my top 5 non-guitar albums, if you can call some of them albums, obviously. I found that when I started listening to, when I went away from the whole blues, rock, metal, classic rock world, I came and listening to this stuff, 2 things happened. First of all, I got some ideas and kind of got a new perspective of how to play music and maybe how to think about phrasing and stuff like that as a musician. But it reinvigorated my love for, Led Zeppelin, Bad Company, Deep Purple, and all of the stuff that I was feeling a bit stale with up to that point. It's just like absence makes the heart grow fonder, maybe, I don't know. But it certainly kind of got me back interested in music again and got me listening to music and enjoying music again. It suddenly, playing the guitar became once again more than just a job. And for that, I am eternally grateful to everything on this list. So there you go, folks. I hope you found that informative, useful, and maybe a little bit inspiring in a different way, other than usual me just showing you licks and scales and stuff. But on the subject of licks and scales and stuff, I will just, as always, mention that I have a course on sale at the moment. It's called Making the Modes Easy, and it's available from there. That link, which is in the description box below, will take you to the Udemy online training platform, where you can take the course. It's listed at $39.99, the price of the course, but Udemy have always got discounts and deals on, so it's highly unlikely it's going to cost you that. I'm getting a lot of people now saying that they're getting it at a really good discount, so why not treat yourself? It's got everything, as I'm sure you're aware, that you need, because I've mentioned it plenty of times, that you need to know everything about modes. You got tabs, you got solos, you got jam tracks, you got everything you need. So yeah, go and check it out. Or if you prefer some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, then give me a shout via the details at the end of this video. If you live on Teesside in the northeast of England, you can come along for a face-to-face lesson, or wherever else you are in the world, you can have a lesson via Skype. And whichever way you do it, as once again I'm sure you're aware, your first lesson is of course free. So what have you got to lose? I'll just mention before I go that there are links down there as well to all of the pieces of music or examples of them that I've talked about in the video today. So go and check them out and see what you think. I'd be interested in your feedback. See if you've got any favourites among them or not, as the case may be. And with that, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks.